The Most Improved Player Award. It signifies a lot in your NBA career. How far you came as a player, the improvements you made to your game for the year before, and 9 times out of 10, at least in the current day NBA, it signifies your certification into stardom or as a top player in some capacity, whether it's your own team, position, or in some cases, the whole entire NBA. So far this year, we're seeing people already make their case for that award right now, with people like Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, Bol Bol, and most impressively, Lauri Markkanen, who has been on 3 different teams since being in the league and is now treated as the top guy on the Utah Jazz. So that got me thinking, why don't we look back at the last 10 most improved player winners and see how they translated their awards throughout the rest of their career to see how winning one translates into the future for the next candidates for this award this year. As usual, this will be a long one, so be sure to like the video for more videos like these and subscribe if you are new, because as y'all know, this takes a long time to make. But with all that out of the way, you already know who it is. Roll it!
3, 2, 1.
Weights in the weight room, so he stitched up in the left. He's doing all that.
But before we start this video, a fun fact. Did you know that the average male testosterone in 2022 is 22% less than where it was in the 1990s? With that, it can cause increased body fat, decreased muscle mass, lower metabolism, and other side effects like that that can potentially hinder your sports performance or just your everyday life as a man. Well, if you'd like to know where you can get that checked at your age, then let me introduce you to today's video sponsor, Let's Get Checked. Let's Get Checked is a worldwide leader in home health tests, and with their male hormone test and home sampling collection, it's never been easier to check your testosterone levels without going to the doctor's office. And after a sample is taken, your results will be sent through a secure account so you and only you will be able to know your health status. In this current health climate that we are in, everyone is taking it very seriously, and you should too by checking to see where you are with your T to avoid the many side effects of low testosterone in men, like erectile dysfunction, a low libido, and less lean muscle mass. If you'd like to know how you are with your testosterone, then check out my link at trylgc.com/Alvini in the description or pinned comment, or use my code Alvini25 at checkout for a 25% discount on your order and to support the channel. Thank you again to Let's Get Checked for sponsoring the video, and let's get back into it. For the 2012-13 Most Improved Player Award, the winner for that season was given to Paul George of the Indiana Pacers over people like General Grievous Vasquez, Larry Sanders, Drew Holiday, and Nikola Vucevic. Overall, not a lot of competition in hindsight. But for Paul George coming into the NBA from Fresno State, he was a 6'8" forward with guard skills who, if given the chance, could improve big time and turn into a really quality all-star level player. But the way he was able to improve so quickly in the NBA had him bolstered as a potential star again very quickly. And for Paul, his moment came when Danny Granger, the team's star, injury history would end up catching up to him, shutting him down for a whole season after a preseason game against the Bulls that made him the primary perimeter scorer, which he was originally playing second fiddle to Danny Granger for. That next year though, he made it known that this was his team, averaging 17 points a game, shooting the most shots on the team, being top 10 in steals in the NBA, and leading the Indiana Pacers to the 3rd seed while improving their record by 7 games. Unlike the other people we'll talk about later in this video, the Most Improved Player bout wasn't about an explosion in stats, it was about him taking the leading position of his team and excelling at it alongside the stats increase. And to support that, we all know how the rest of the season went for him, taking this Indiana Pacers team all the way to the conference finals against the Big 3 Miami Heat, where they fought tooth and nail to lose in 7 games against them to further strengthen his claim to prove why he was the most improved player. And as we all know, he continued to improve year after year after year, improving his numbers to 21 points a game a year later. Then unfortunately had his most brutal injury in the Team USA scrimmage, where he sustained a compound fracture to his tibia and fibula. But what's crazy about this entire story is the fact that he still continued to improve year after year, averaging a career best 23 points a game after that gruesome injury that would derail a player's career in normal circumstances. But for PG, he kept working and became one of the best two-way players in the NBA, one of the best shooting guards in our generation, and at his best, averaged nearly 30 points a game with the OKC Thunder in the 2018-19 season. But throughout his career, PG has only kept improving what he's best at, turning his shot creation skills into a main strength of his, being basically unstoppable on isolations, still staying consistent with his feats and athleticism even after his injury in 2014, and being one of the smoothest forward dribblers of all time. He truly emphasizes what it means to be a most improved player, as he's shown every every year in his career, new improvements to his game year after year. Nowadays on the Los Angeles Clippers at 32 years old, he's still up to his same antics and trying to go after the goal he has had since the MIP campaign of winning an NBA championship, which, as we all know, for many reasons, he was cut short a lot of times, actually. For the 2013-14 Most Improved Player Award, the winner for that was given to Goran Dragic of the Phoenix Suns over people like, for some reason, Lance Stevenson, Anthony Davis, and again, for some reason, Gerald Green. But voters heavily went into Goran Dragic for his heroics, what he did with the Suns, taking them from 25 and 57 team the year before, where they had two coaches in Alvin Gentry and Lindsey Hunter, both failed to keep their positions, never finding a stride with the team, to going into the next year averaging a team-high 20 points and 5 assists, while being the only player in the NBA that season to average 50% from the field and over 40% from three, and leading his team to a 48-34 record, a 23 game increase from the year before. One of the best one-year turnarounds, records-wise at least, in NBA history. Once again, the Most Improved Player Award signifies everything Goran meant to the team rather than just his stats increase alone. Yes, he was one of the best and most efficient scorers in the NBA that year, but considering where the team was last year and losing a lot of the talent from the year before, and then transforming his game to aid the team goes a far way alongside his statistical increase. But speaking of that, the year before with the Suns was one of the worst teams in the NBA. He averaged 14 points and 7 assists while shooting 44% from the field and 31% from three, and also having to share the ball with the likes of Luis Scola, Marcin Gortat, Shannon Brown, Jared Dudley, and of course, Michael Beasley. With 5 other players averaging 10 or more points a game, however, having the second to worst offensive rating in the league. But again, Goran came into this next season a man on a mission, carrying his team to a 9th seed placement where they were literally one game away from making the playoffs. And the most fucked up thing about it is that the team they were behind, the Dallas Mavericks, well, they lost to them on their third to last game of the season, which I am sure did not help at all. But anyways, regarding Goran Dragic, throughout the rest of his career, he continued to be one of the best steady guards in the NBA. Not a star by any standards, but in a system being one of the best guards you can have to get the job done at a high level. And that couldn't be farther from the truth when he was traded to the Miami Heat that next year to become their system point guard for the next 7 years to come. He was never going to be a consistent #1 scoring option, only reaching the same point again in the 2016-17 season, but in his time in the NBA, he would finally get his recognition as an NBA star when he became an all-star in the 2017-18 season, being an injury replacement over Kevin Love. Throughout the rest of his NBA career, he stayed on the same team, being a point guard who will again get their job done, and the farthest he has gone in that effort was an NBA Finals appearance in the 2019-20 season, where the Miami Heat lost to the Los Angeles Lakers. Nowadays, at his old basketball age of 36 and in his 14th NBA season, he is still giving the NBA very valuable minutes, playing on the Chicago Bulls in a backup role and playing well at it, averaging 10 points and 3 assists a game. Will he win a championship on the Bulls? Probably not, but hey, being a very valuable player to a team is probably good enough for him, showing the journey that Goran Dragic has been through as a former Most Improved Player winner. For the 2014-15 Most Improved Player Award, the winner for that was given to Jimmy Butler of the Chicago Bulls. Now, before we start this off, you know how they say that sometimes availability is the best ability? We have already gone through a story about how someone's team leader went down for another person to get the opportunity and make it their team, and Paul George and Danny Granger. But now, 2 years later, we have Jimmy Butler doing the exact same thing to Derrick Rose. Jimmy Butler, the year before winning this award, was a primary starter on the Bulls, starting all 67 games he played that year. But on the Bulls on the 2013-14 season, you had things all over the organization breaking down due to, well, very odd reasons. Derrick Rose, who was injured during the 2012 playoffs, was out all year dealing with a torn ACL and then tearing his meniscus only 10 games into that next season. And with him gone, the rest of the team tried to make up for his absence by having everyone chip in. But for Jimmy, it was the greatest opportunity he could possibly ever have. Being able to play a near league high 38 minutes a game, no joke. He played 38 minutes a game a night in only his third season in the NBA. But with that, he found time to learn the NBA game and slowly become better. But even though his stats didn't show much progress, with him averaging 13 points on abysmal shooting at the shooting guard position, with shooting splits of 39% from the field, 28% from three, and 76% from the free throw line, that next year is when he took all of his lessons, going to the gym and coming back better than ever. But in the 2014-15 season, he had a lot going against him. Pau Gasol came in for the burning ship of the LA Lakers at that time, time, and Derrick Rose came back from his injury issues. But Jimmy Butler made it his team as Derrick Rose continued to be out for lengths at a time, only playing 55 games, and Pau Gasol became a great running mate with Jimmy. That year, he improved his averages from 13 points to 20 points a game and improved his shooting splits from what he had the year before to 46% from the field, 37% from three, and 83% from the free throw line. A complete transformation from what he was a year before, and it earned him his first All-Star bout, got considerations for the All-NBA team, achieving his second ever All-Defensive team, and leading the Bulls to the 3rd seed in the East. But Jimmy Butler's rise in the NBA came with an amazing work ethic and being able to be at the right place at honestly the right time, because with all the people in the pecking order over him, I can only imagine how hard it was to be able to do what he did, especially with a coach like Tom Thibodeau. But with Rose's injury troubles and the departures of Luol Deng and Carlos Boozer, it put him in an instant position to become the leader of the Bulls. And as we all know, he continued to do the same thing over and over again on every team he's been on. I wouldn't say he improved since that point entirely, just getting better at knowing his game and coming through when he's needed to on teams like the Miami Heat a couple years ago. But with his tenure on the Bulls, it ended up with him being traded onto the Timberwolves, where he would try to lead them to something but would end up being a nightmare over there. Then traded to Philly to be a part of the amazing big three of himself, Joel Embiid, and Ben Simmons, where they went toe-in-toe with the eventual champions in the Raptors to once again lead to his current position with the Miami Heat, where he was resided ever since. But ever since his time with the Bulls, he has always stayed being the strong leader every team needs to win games, and when his time is needed, he always comes through, except for a certain three-pointer against the Celtics, but I know we don't want to talk about that. For the 2015-16 Most Improved Player Award, the winner for that was given to CJ McCollum of the Portland Trail Blazers, basically winning it unanimously, getting 559 of the total 650 votes over people like Kemba Walker, Giannis, and Stephen Curry. But for CJ, being the 4-year college player he was expected to come in and produce immediately in the NBA, just like all of them being on the older side of rookies, coming in at the age of 22 as a rookie. But of course, the golden standard of this was his own teammate in Damian Lillard, who balled out as a 22-year-old rookie and breaking at the time the 3-point record for a rookie. But unlike Damian, CJ coming into the league didn't basically have the starting spot, having people like Wesley Matthews, Aaron Aflalo, Will Barton, and others in front of him. It was hard to get any quality minutes, only playing 12 and 15 minutes a game his first 2 years. However, like clockwork, his patience and improvement paid off as Wesley Matthews signed a deal with the Dallas Mavericks during that offseason. The same thing with Aaron Aflalo leaving for the Big Apple, and you even have to add on Nick Batum leaving for Charlotte, being one of the reasons he got minutes almost ASAP going into next season, and the same for LaMarcus Aldridge leaving Portland to play with Kawhi Leonard in San Antonio. Damian Lillard's whole entire starting lineup from last year left for what seemed like greener pastures, whether money-wise or championship-wise, leaving Damian Lillard with himself and others with little experience. But just like how CJ McCollum showed himself up to be a near 50-40-90 guy machine in college after some development, CJ would do the exact same thing in his 3rd season in the NBA, going from basically being a bench warmer to being thrusted into the starting lineup and averaging 20 points a game while flirting again with the 50-40-90 club. With that, is there any question how he ran away with the Most Improved Player Award? He basically went from being a reserve to a star in a matter of a year, and he would keep this scoring effort up routinely over the years, averaging over 20 points a game in Portland and routinely making the playoffs. Would they go far in the playoffs most of the time? No, but they were still making it year after year. With this blow-up season, CJ McCollum has become a very respected and underrated scorer in the NBA for years to come, and currently resides on the New Orleans Pelicans, where he is helping the young Pelicans attempt at going towards a championship, and will be a big part of that, signing an extension with them last year. And funny enough, with this team, he has transitioned to more of a point guard role, averaging the most assists he has ever had in his career at 6 a game, so the improvements continue even at the age of 31. For the 2016-17 Most Improved Player Award, the winner for that was given to Giannis Antetokounmpo of the Milwaukee Bucks. And a quick fun fact, he won it over a certain Serbian man that was drafted over a Taco Bell commercial, whoever he is. But anyways, we already know the story of Giannis, as it's been documented time and time again, but for the sake of the video, we have to talk about it, don't we? Giannis coming to the NBA in the 2013 draft was thought as an all-around prospect coming out of Europe in a very weird way, one of a kind. At the time, he was drafted as a small forward or a very tall shooting guard if developed the right way. People thought he could be a very quality starter in the NBA, and of course, as the meme goes, due to his long arms and height, he was compared to Nicholas Batum, which isn't anything bad. had, as he was a very solid two-way player in the NBA himself, but what the Bucks got was a very malleable prospect that can be anything they wish for him to be. In his time in the NBA, he came into the league at 6'9", 196 pounds, but when he won his MIP award, the NBA listed him at 6'11" and 222 pounds. And with that, they turned Giannis into a rim-running power forward who was too strong to stop, too long to stop, and too easy to foul. At his time in Europe, he was considered as someone who could knock down threes and be way too hard to stop if he drove in with his quick and agile nature. In his rookie season, the Bucks organization tried to keep up with that side of his game and seeing how he did. And while he was okay as a shooter, what he excelled at was driving in and getting to the hoop with his size. So what the Bucks wanted to do was to keep strengthening to maximize his best features as a basketball player. Year by year, he got bigger and he got more dominant, from 6 points to 12 points to 16 points a game, and then finally 22 points a game when he won the Most Improved Player award. And it's not like that was the only thing he had going for him, as he retained some of his guard skills, averaging nearly 6 assists a game also, and with his newly developed body became a menace defensively also. Giannis's growth in the NBA is anything short of a metamorphosis coming into the NBA as a scrawny small forward, but over time becoming the most dominant players of our time. And the Most Improved Player award he won in the 2016-17 season signified his growth quite literally as a player. And as we all know, since that award, he's only continued to improve statistically. Compared to his current day version, he went from averaging 22 points a game to 32 this year, 8 rebounds to 12, slowly improving on his shooting range from all over, especially at the free throw line, mid-range, and 3, won multiple MVPs, multiple DPOYs, and even went to the pinnacle of an NBA player's career, winning an NBA championship 2 seasons ago. Once again, to become a Most Improved Player comes in many shapes and sizes, but Giannis will go down as the true and genuine definition of it, as it was definitely a transformation into one. But it's nice to see the many other forms of MIP, but I don't think we will get another one like Giannis in a very, very long time. For the 2017-18 Most Improved Player award, the winner for that was given to Victor Oladipo of the Indiana Pacers, winning it over people like Clint Capella and Spencer Dinwiddie. Okay, to be completely real with y'all, Victor legit only lost 2 first place votes to those guys and earned 499 out of 505 total points. So it was safe to say there was absolutely zero competition, and how could there be? But let's talk about what happened before the fact, like how he got in this position in the first place. Victor Oladipo, coming into the NBA, drafted at the 2nd spot of the 2013 NBA draft, was drafted with needing to fix his offensive game for the NBA level, as he was already a top defender in college. But if he could become a better offensive player with time, he could become a top player in the draft. And with the Orlando Magic taking him, he'd have plenty of time to figure that out. But crazy enough, he already had it figured out as soon as he came to the league, averaging 13 points a game on decent splits for a rookie guard. He was even practicing becoming a distributor with 4 assists alongside that, even though on 3 turnovers. But hey, progress is progress. But I talked about his tenure on the Magic in my draft video of their history when it comes to failing through the draft to make anything. So I would just describe his time with the Magic in one word: underappreciated. Even as he developed where he became at his best 17 points a game in his 2nd season with the Magic, he was traded for the Magic to obtain Serge Ibaka. And once again, I explained how weird that was in my draft Magic video. So yeah, be sure to check that out for a full analysis on that. But with Victor traded to the Thunder, he then became a part of a championship-inspired team with Russell Westbrook leading the helm. But with him there, instead of being the focus of development like he was on the Magic, he then became second in command to Russ, and there was absolutely no problem with that. Victor was a very solid starter with Russ averaging 15 points a game with no drop-offs in efficiency at all, just slowly becoming better and better, waiting for his opportunity to become the guy. But once they lost the playoffs to the Houston Rockets, his time now became a reality. Being traded for Paul George in Indiana, traded to his own team where he can now become the #1 option, and with all the skills he developed over the years, he was able to become the Most Improved Player and so much more in that season. At Indiana, he became everything for that team, averaging career highs everywhere: 23 points a game, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, and most impressively, 2.4 steals a game, which led the NBA that year, further showing he was retaining his skill set for college that simply matured over the years. But alongside that, he was full on taking on the best defenders in the league off the dribble, making any type of shot he wanted, dunking on your favorite player, and shot the 3 ball at a near 40% clip. And once again, while doing all this to lead Indiana to a near 50-win season, earned All-NBA 3rd team, All-NBA defensive team, and got his first All-Star bid. As soon as he got his opportunity to play his brand of basketball on his own team, he showed out immediately after maturing his game over the years. But unfortunately, that one season became his absolute peak as an NBA player, sustaining a broken leg against the Toronto Raptors, which since made him an afterthought in the NBA world. Moving from there to Houston, where he tried to revive his career somewhat to no avail, and then was traded to the Heat, where since then he's only played 27 games, including the playoffs, on the team. Even right now, he is yet to make his NBA debut for the season due to knee issues, but that's just the scary side of sports sometimes. All it takes is one injury sometimes to take you off the pinnacle of your career, and it creates a sad story for people like Victor and others who sustained similar injuries that zapped their former abilities. For the 2018-19 Most Improved Player Award, the winner of that was given to Pascal Siakam of the Toronto Raptors. But before we go into this full extent of Pascal's rise to dominance and relevancy, let's just all admit something right now. Masai Ujiri has a type. We all know it. There's no denying it. Masai Ujiri likes long, lanky African men. Of course, as usual, no homo. But we've seen it throughout the years, throughout his time recently as the president of basketball operations of the Toronto Raptors. On his current team, he has people like Otto Porter, Delonte Banton, Chris Boucher, OG Anunoby, and most recently, Christian Koloko, the 7-foot Bol Bol center with his recent draft selections. But where it all started in the most successful experiment was Pascal Siakam, who was drafted by them in the 2016 class, 27th overall from New Mexico State.
With the 27th pick in the 2016 NBA Draft, the Toronto Raptors select Pascal Siakam from Douala, Cameroon, and New Mexico State University.
Coming into the NBA, he was not touted as the most serious NBA prospect, being compared to Jordan Mickey at his floor, a relentless rebounder, or at his best, Luc Rashad Baamute, a defensive specialist and a top role player in his time in the NBA. Of course, though, he had a lot of upside coming into the NBA as a 6'9" forward with a 7'3" wingspan and being able to do almost anything around the court, averaging 20 points, 11 rebounds, 2 blocks a game, while having remnants of a face-up game and be able to use his body to drive in. But even with that amazing second season, he was touted as a late first or second round pick due to his raw ability offensively and the competition he's faced. But just take a look at how this ESPN sportscaster reacted to him being drafted in the first round.
Can somebody tell
Deontay Davis is still left behind. Pascal Siakam is the 9th international player selected in the first round. That's a new record. He did play at New Mexico State, but you heard the commissioner say from Cameroon.
Pascal Siakam is another guy with an incredibly long wingspan, 7'3" wingspan. He's just about 6'10", grabs about 13 rebounds per 40 minutes. The overwhelming majority of his shots come right around the basket. So he's an energy big guy that's got good length, that runs the floor. He gets about 1.2 points per possession in transition. So he does a good job running the floor. I would call him a relentless rebounder. Just under 12 rebounds a game, and he plays a ton of minutes, so it's 13 per 40 minutes. Not a great athlete, a respectable face-up shot. I'm a little surprised he went in the first round. I pegged him as a second rounder, but he's got ability, and he's got an NBA skill. He can get you extra possessions because he can rebound.
He was the youngest of 4 brothers. One of his brothers, James, played at Vanderbilt. He was the one who initially didn't really want to be a basketball player, and he turns out to be a first-round pick, 27th overall.
But with that potential in mind, Masai Ujiri drafted him and put him to work immediately, trying to slowly tap into that all-around game he could possess. But in the light of his third season, he was brought into the starting lineup only after being a role player the year before. And that's where he blossomed that year truly, putting up averages of 16 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists a game, while also averaging his best field goal percentage of his career by far, shooting 54% from the field. And the way I like to think about it, he became the perfect second option to Kawhi Leonard after the Kawhi for DeMar DeRozan trade, which opened up a hole for him at the power forward position, especially as Marc Gasol was traded 4 months later. I do think Pascal Siakam was one of the biggest beneficiaries for the Kawhi Leonard trade, opening up the pecking order for him to succeed, and also with the new coach Nick Nurse seeing the same thing Masai saw in Pascal. And as we all know, he won the Most Improved Player award over players like D'Angelo Russell in Brooklyn before the fall off and De'Aaron Fox. But for Pascal to go from a bench role and averaging 7 points a game to now being a primary part of a winning team averaging 16 points a game shows true true development and increase as a player and the rightful winner. Over the time since then, Pascal Siakam's only improved more and more, becoming an all-star the next year after Kawhi left, becoming a better distributor, increasing assist numbers by the years, and garnering multiple All-NBA selections also. But this year, the 2023 season, we may be seeing a new form of Pascal, as in 9 games he's averaging a career-high 24 points alongside 9 rebounds and 7 assists, a near triple-double. He is definitely going for another all-star selection, even an all-NBA spot if you keep all those numbers and productions, but his development has been a nice story to witness. For the 2019-20 Most Improved Player Award, the winner for that was given to Brandon Ingram of the New Orleans Pelicans. As we all know, though, this season had a lot of people improving their game all over the league, and it translated to 3 people getting a main bulk of the first place votes. First with Brandon Ingram with 42 place votes, second with Bam Adebayo getting 35, and third with Luka Doncic in his second NBA season with 12. But the winner went to Brandon Ingram due to his surge of scoring on his new team and the New Orleans Pelicans in his 4th season in the league. Now, when it came to the league originally, as we all know, he was drafted 2nd overall to the Los Angeles Lakers with star potential written all over him. 6'9" with a 7'3" wingspan from Duke, torching the competition and showing a KD-like structure and scoring potential. However, when he was drafted to the Lakers, there was a lot of weird things happening all over his organization that, due to that, ended up stunting his growth originally. One of the first things was due to the coach that he had his first 3 seasons in the Lakers with Luke Walton. I made a video about a year ago when Luke Walton was fired that documented all the miscues he had as a head coach, which you can watch for more info. But when it came to the case of Brandon Ingram, Luke Walton was brought in to develop the young core the Lakers had on the team, people like Brandon Ingram, Julius Randle, Lonzo Ball, D'Angelo Russell, and others. But as the years went by, there was barely any development that made people question his coaching and development abilities. Even Magic Johnson himself condemned Luke in this Yahoo article. As the author Chris Haynes writes, Johnson, who held an impromptu news conference outside the Lakers locker room Tuesday to announce his resignation as president before the team's final game of the season against the Portland Trail Blazers, has been displeased with Walton's ability to effectively make in-game adjustments, and he felt the coaching staff lacked an experience and expertise to foster his players' development, sources said. And as you can see through the stats of his first 3 years on the Lakers, from 9 points to 16 points to 18 points per game in his 3rd season, he has had flashes of great play, but there are still plenty of parts of his game that need to be improved upon, like he has been doing in the last few seasons with the Pelicans. And finally, the second point is, of course, the signing of LeBron James, because the way I see it, only certain players can really excel with LeBron James on their team. In the 3rd year, Brandon Ingram was definitely not it, especially when he couldn't make a free throw to save his life at times. And as we all know, the trouble LeBron James can bring to a team, to a young player, if they're not prepared for it, can really derail their career a bit. So with that, he was traded after his 3rd season to the New Orleans Pelicans with a fresh start, new team, new teammates, and most importantly, a new coaching staff, and of course, less media coverage. But mainly the coaching staff, as they had one of the best shooting coaches in the NBA, and Fred Vincent, who is credited to fixing and helping a lot of players jump shots like Lonzo Ball, Tyreek Evans, and recently Herb Jones, and of course, Brandon Ingram. With that being said, he came to the Pelicans with all of his new resources and a fresh start to then boost his averages to 23 points a game on 46% from the field and a career high 39% from 3, and lastly becoming a first-time All-Star to top it all off. And I mentioned it before in a past video, but when it came down to the race with Bam and Brandon Ingram, I still do hold the opinion that Brandon Ingram earned it more than Bam as a player. And even though Brandon Ingram may have got more votes due to his story compared to Bam, who just got better all around and became a more used part of the Miami Heat's offense, I promise you, for me, that isn't the case. But leave your thoughts on that race from a few years ago below. But after the All-Star season, we have seen Brandon Ingram improve gradually more and more, and now Brandon Ingram has teammates all over with Zion, CJ McCollum, and Jonas Valanciunas, who help offensively. So while his stats may seem to be down, it's because he has more help all around him other than other stars around the NBA. But let's just hope he can finally get some playoff success in his 7th season in the league. For the 2020-21 Most Improved Player Award, the winner for that was given to Julius Randle of the New York Knicks. But before we start this one, let me say, the 2 people who voted for Jeremy Grant as their first place winner, you're not funny. And quite honestly, I doubt your critical thinking skills as a basketball fucking analyst. But anyways, Julius Randle that year was an absolute man on a mission because absolutely no one saw what he did coming at all. The year before, he signed with the New York Knicks after his time with the Pelicans as an improving young player looking for for a home, and he found that home in the Big Apple of New York City. But it came with a lot of growing pains as he was on a very dysfunctional team that had two coaches, a rookie RJ Barrett, Marcus Morris balling out before his trade, and a weird amount of power forwards, and just hell all around, really. And it's still hell all around, but we're talking about his MIP season. But honestly, I don't know what to say for his most improved player run outside of his game absolutely transforming into a complete opposite of what he already was. Instead of being a bruiser in the paint with his very solid body, he lost weight that summer and became faster. Instead of being primarily relying on points in the paint to get buckets, he was balling out on the perimeter and doing step back jumpers. Instead of getting his points from assists, he was the one throwing assists. Overall, he upped his averages from 19 points to 24 points a game, up his 3-point shot from 27 to 41 on 3 more attempts a game, and doubled his assists the year before with 6 a game while leading the team. And lastly, led the NBA in minutes played per game. But what do you expect from a main player on a Tom Thibodeau-led team? But again, all over, the transformation of his game was a complete 180 from what he was the year before, and due to that, he became a top 20 scorer in the NBA, a first-time All-Star, led the Knicks to a 5th seed, and again, won most improved player in almost unanimous fashion. But I think something that people haven't been privy to talk about that turnaround season was the aftermath, because I don't know what the hell happened, but Julius Randle absolutely turned the switch that he had on the season before and then turned it back off the next season, because very little changes were made to the team that upcoming year, but Julius turned down his intensity and efficiency, scoring only 20 points a game on 41% from the field and barely 30% from 3, and was even less efficient in his playmaking efforts. All around, just a straight downgrade from the amazing season that he had last year, and due to that, it only hindered the Knicks losing more games than the year before and then being outside of the play-in standings wise. In the beginning stages of this season, with Jalen Brunson now being on the team, it seems that he's still being the top scorer on the team scoring wise, but at the same time, he's playing better due to him not being the main focus on the team anymore. And by main, I mean doing absolutely everything, because now they have a real point guard leading the charge. Overall, his MIP campaign will go down as an anomaly, as someone who popped off and then regressed the year right after. A first in this retrospective of the last 10 most improved player winners. Lastly, let's talk about the last winner of the Most Improved Player Award of the 2021-22 season, Ja Morant of the Memphis Grizzlies. And once again, this race was chock full of cases made all over the NBA. DeJounte Murray's all-around dominance with the Spurs, Darius Garland's carry Ja with the Cavaliers, becoming a near 20-10 player, Jordan Poole coming off party in the league, Miles Bridges garnering a jump shot and not committing domestic violence on a woman, Tyrese Maxey's random scoring explosions on the Sixers, and Desmond Bane case as one of the best shooters in the league. But when the voting came down to it, it went to Ja Morant. The year before, Ja was coming off his rookie season looking to improve upon an already solid rookie campaign, and you can argue he did that, averaging 19 points a game, but it was also highlighted by the fact that he was making less shots on that effort from the field and from 3, which some people criticize as a main detriment to his game, where he shot more times to get more points in a lesser efficient manner. So for some people, they argued he basically stayed the same from his rookie campaign to his sophomore year. But when his 3rd season came around, he absolutely torched the NBA, increasing his averages to 27 points a game while almost shooting 50% from the field, and went back to being an average 3-point shooter. And to some people, him winning this award was controversial to say the least, as he didn't improve in some people's eyes, as he just simply scored more and didn't have any other real improvements to his game like other people we talked about today. People also compared this case to how people was trying to get Luka to win the Most Improved Player a few years ago due to that same claim. I'm kind of half and half on that point, but as we all know, he gifted a trophy to his teammate in Desmond Bane, who literally doubled his scoring numbers and who could be making a claim for that trophy actually this year, averaging 24 points a game at the making of this video. But anyways, when it came towards his achievements as a player that year, he became a first-time All-Star, a top 15 scorer in the league, led the Grizzlies to a 2nd seed in the West, and surprisingly was one of the top paint scorers in the NBA as a guard, even though we know exactly why. Overall, this race for the Most Improved Player award was very talked about, way more than in past years, because there were legit many people who could have taken it. But the way Ja Morant finally burst onto the scene while also leading his team to a near top position in a loaded Western Conference spoke more volumes than everybody else's cases. But he has plenty of more time to keep improving and making himself a top guard in the NBA. Once again, the most improved player award signifies a lot. It signifies your certification into Stardom or as a top player in some capacity, whether it's your own team, position, or the NBA. And most of these people, you may or may not know who I'm excluding here, are using their lessons learned from their time in the NBA to make them winning this award the notice to put into the league, to take them more seriously, and to put them in the conversation as a top player. Some players continue to keep improving after winning it and never stay satisfied. Some people stay stagnant, and for some, regressed over years. But overall, even though this award is rarely talked about in debates or when it comes to voting, it's interesting to see how these players translate winning this award throughout the rest of their future in the NBA. But as always, I hope you enjoyed today's video and learned something new, as my vision for this channel is to inform and entertain. Check out my social medias for the inside life of Alvini and other channel news. Check out my Twitch where I stream weekly. And lastly, if you want to talk to your boy, there is always my Discord. Links are in the description. But with all that out of the way, this is your boy, Alvini Linguini, saying peace